You may find yourself standing at the edge of your life, not knowing how you arrived here, only that the soil beneath you no longer feels like home. And yet, the air quivers, electric with memory and ache, as if something long exiled is approaching. This is not the first time your soul has circled back to the same threshold. You have been here before, not in this body. Perhaps not in this name, but your essence remembers. The spiral of healing is not linear. It is a return to what was once abandoned. Before we begin, take a moment to like and subscribe. The more you engage and stay with the content, the more YouTube shares these timeless insights with others. By doing so, you're not only helping this channel grow, but also spreading Carl Jung's transformative wisdom to those seeking meaning and inner truth. Let's dive into the depth of the psyche together. Mabdi. You were trained in the art of disappearance, taught to dissolve like smoke in the rooms where others' needs towered like gods. Somewhere in the hush between your heartbeat and your first word, you made an invisible vow to be what they needed, to sense before being sensed, to protect them from your truth. You became the silent sentinel of emotional weather, always reading, always responding, never disturbing the surface of still water, even as your own depths churned with unspoken storms. And so the world called you kind. They praised your ability to feel what others could not name. But you, quiet alchemist of sorrow, know the cost of that praise. It was not love they gave you, it was dependence, a currency that robbed you of your name, your needs, your right to occupy the center of your own life. Beneath every generous smile lived a hunger for validation. Beneath every act of compassion, a hidden prayer that someone, somewhere, might finally see you not for your service, but for your soul. Yet the soul is not fed by performance. It demands fire, not flattery, truth, not trophies. The mask you wore began as armor. It softened your sharp edges, hid your sacred rage, made you palatable. But masks are not meant to be homes. Over time, it calcified. You began to believe you were the mask, that peace meant silence, that love required extinction, until something cracked. It always begins subtly, a tremor in the voice, a sudden intolerance for small talk, a dream where your childhood home crumbles into dust. The psyche speaks in symbols before it screams. And when it does, it is not to destroy you, but to resurrect you. The snapping you fear is not madness. It is initiation. The collapse is holy. One day, you awake and realize that to stay silent is no longer safe, that your compliance has become a coffin, that your spirituality, once a balm, has become a veil over your own crucifixion. And so the body rises. The hands tremble. The jaw tightens. A voice once swallowed emerges with a howl that shatters the illusion of harmony. This is not rage, this is reclamation. The empath, long trained in the art of disappearing, begins to take up space. And it is messy, it is loud, it is misunderstood. Those who once drank from your well will cry betrayal when the waters dry. They will not recognize the you who no longer bleeds for belonging. Let them mourn. You are not here to be adored. You are here to be real. There is a temple beneath your trauma. And every time you honor your boundaries, you sweep its floor. Every time you speak the truth you once buried, you light a candle on its altar. Every time you walk away from what demands your silence, you ring its bell. This is the sacred return to wholeness, the retrieval of the fragmented self. The warrior, the witch, the wild child, the sovereign, all parts welcome. All parts essential. The path of individuation is not paved in affirmation. It is carved through the stone of your own resistance. And the shadow, that ancient gatekeeper of all you were taught to fear, now rises not as threat but as guide, does not wish to harm you. It wishes to free you, but it will not speak in pleasantries. It will speak in symbols, the dream of your teeth falling out, the sudden fury at being interrupted, the inexplicable sadness in a grocery store aisle. You see, the psyche has no interest in comfort. It seeks only truth, and truth is not tidy. Truth unearths. Truth disorients. Truth demands that you unlearn everything that once made you lovable, but never made you whole. You may find yourself sobbing at a red light, unsure what broke you open. You may feel guilt so dense it wraps around your ribs like iron. You may question your sanity. But listen, it is not insanity. It is shedding. You are not broken. You are becoming. The world is not kind to those who stop performing. But there is a deeper current than approval, and it carries you home to yourself. When you no longer perform, you begin to feel. And what you feel may terrify you. That's okay. Terror is the midwife of transformation. Let it shake you. Let it guide you down into the belly of your own truth, where the golden child and the abandoned self sit side by side, waiting to be seen not as opposites, but as kin. The split was never real, only inherited. And in this cave of self, lit by the flicker of reclaimed light, you will begin to remember who you were before you were trained to forget. You were wild. You were whole. You were unafraid of your power. Now, that power returns, but not as dominance, as clarity. Clarity that says, I am not here to carry what is not mine. Clarity that says, my empathy is not a contract of silence. Clarity that says, I choose presence over performance, truth over tolerance, soul over survival. And yes, it will cost you. The old world will fall away. Relationships built on your erasure, spiritualities that demanded your suppression, identities formed through adaptation. But in that falling, the real begins. The dream changes. You no longer dream of escape. You dream of embodiment, of a voice not softened by fear, of a life not measured by how little you need. You become the house that does not burn, not because it is untouchable, but because it is no longer built of illusion. You begin to live from the center, and that center does not crave perfection. It craves presence. That center is not loud. It is sovereign. That center is not safe in the traditional sense. It is true. And truth, my love, is where freedom lives. So if you find yourself unraveling, do not resist. You are not falling apart. You are falling through into the underworld of your own becoming. This is the descent every mystic makes. The wound becomes the womb. The mask becomes the map. And one day, without fanfare, you will look into the mirror and not flinch. You will speak your need without apology. You will walk into a room and not scan for approval. You will become the one you've been waiting for, because you never lost yourself. You were just buried beneath the sacred silence of survival. Welcome back, if you have felt the trembling within you, the moment before the voice breaks free, the quaking of your soul at the threshold of your truth. Then let us mark this moment together. In the old ways, initiates would leave a symbol at the mouth of the cave. They entered a gesture to say, I went in, and I am coming out transformed. So, in that spirit, I invite you now to choose a number that echoes this journey. Let